Let's guess how you picture living alone after 60. Quiet mornings, a cup of coffee, your own schedule. Nobody telling you where to be or what to do. Sounds peaceful, right? And sometimes it is. But there's another side nobody puts on the postcard. It's the Tuesday morning when the house is completely silent. No one needs you to get up. No appointment is waiting, no coworker is expecting you. You could stay in bed another hour, then another, and nobody would even know. That freedom can be wonderful, but without a little structure, the same freedom can slowly work against you. Days start blending together. Meals become random. The house gets a little messier. The television stays on a little longer. You stop going outside as much. And before you realize what happened, your world has gotten smaller without you ever deciding to shrink it. Here is the good news. Thriving seniors who live alone usually do not have some secret formula. They're not busy every minute. They're not constantly traveling, exercising, or entertaining people. They simply have a few small routines that give their days a shape. And the interesting part is that most of these routines cost almost nothing. They're simple enough to start tomorrow morning.
Routine number 1. They get dressed for the day. This sounds almost ridiculously basic, especially when there is nowhere to go, but that is exactly why it matters. When nobody is waiting for you, it becomes incredibly easy to stay in pajamas until noon. Then noon becomes 2 o'clock, and suddenly half the day is gone. You might think, what's the harm? I'm retired. I can do whatever I want. Technically, that's true, but there's a difference between having freedom and having no structure. Getting dressed creates a psychological line between sleeping and living. It tells your brain the day has started. That does not mean putting on a suit, fixing your hair perfectly, and preparing for a business meeting that does not exist. Comfortable clothes are completely fine. The point is to wash up, get dressed, open the curtains, make the bed, and prepare to participate in your own day. Because when you live alone, you have to create some of the structure that other people used to create for you. A job created a schedule. Children created responsibilities. Appointments created deadlines. Neighbors, coworkers, and family members gave you reasons to leave the house. Now you get to create some of those reasons yourself. And thriving seniors understand something important. A routine does not take away freedom. It protects it.
Routine number 2. They leave the house every day. Not necessarily for hours. Sometimes it is a walk around the block. Sometimes it is sitting outside with a cup of coffee. Sometimes it is going to the grocery store, visiting the library, checking the mail, or simply standing on the porch for 10 minutes. The destination is not always the important part. The important part is refusing to let the walls of your house become the boundaries of your life. There is something different about seeing the sky, hearing traffic, noticing a neighbor, feeling the weather, or watching people go about their normal day. It reminds you that the world is still happening outside your front door. And here's the trap. When you live alone, staying inside can feel completely harmless. One day becomes two becomes several, and eventually, going outside starts to feel like an event instead of a normal part of life. Thriving seniors interrupt that pattern early. They make leaving the house part of their routine, even when there is no special reason to go. You do not need to spend money. You do not need to drive somewhere expensive. You do not even need to walk far. Step outside. Take a few deep breaths. Walk to the end of the street. Sit somewhere peaceful. Look at the trees. Say hello to a neighbor. 10 or 15 minutes can be enough to remind your mind that your life extends beyond your living room. Routine number 3. They eat at regular times. Living alone can quietly destroy mealtime structure. Breakfast becomes coffee, lunch becomes whatever happens to be nearby. Dinner becomes cereal because cooking for one person feels like too much work. And occasionally, that is completely fine. The problem begins when occasionally becomes every day. When nobody else is eating, there is no external reminder that it is time to prepare something. So you start eating whenever you happen to feel hungry. Sometimes you eat too little. Sometimes you snack all afternoon. Sometimes dinner happens at 9 at night because the day simply got away from you. Thriving seniors create simple anchors. Breakfast around the same time, lunch around the same time, dinner around the same time. Not because they are obsessed with schedules, because predictable routines make the day feel more organized. And there's another benefit. When you regularly prepare a real meal for yourself, you send yourself a surprisingly powerful message. This person is worth taking care of. That person is you. So make the sandwich properly. Put the food on a plate. Pour yourself a glass of water. Sit down. Use the table. Take your time. You do not need to cook a 5-course meal for one person. Even something simple can feel different when you treat it like a real meal instead of something you grabbed because you had nothing better to do. And this is where many people miss the bigger point. A routine is not just about the action itself, it's about the message behind the action. When you consistently take care of small things, you begin to feel that your life is worth taking care of too. Routine number 4. They make contact with another person every day. This does not mean having a packed social calendar. It does not mean going to a party every night. It does not mean talking on the phone for 3 hours. It simply means making sure an entire day does not pass without some form of genuine human connection. Call a friend, talk to a neighbor, visit a relative, go somewhere you recognize people, ask someone how their day is going. Even a 5-minute conversation can break the feeling that the whole world has gone quiet. Because living alone and being lonely are not the same thing. You can live alone and have a deeply connected life, and you can live in a house full of people and still feel completely isolated. Thriving seniors understand that connection has to be maintained. It is a little like watering a plant. You cannot ignore it for 6 months and then suddenly decide to give it all the water it needs in one afternoon. Relationships need small, regular attention. And there's another reason this routine matters. People should know you're around, not because you need someone watching you, not because you are incapable of taking care of yourself, but because independence does not mean disappearing. If something unusual happens, it's valuable to have someone who notices, someone who would think, "That's strange, I haven't heard from them today." That's not weakness, that's smart independence. The strongest people are not always the people who need nobody. Sometimes they're the people who have built a small circle of people they can count on. And if you live alone, that circle becomes even more important.
Routine number 5. They keep one small area of the house under control every day. Notice the wording, one small area, not the entire house, not a 4-hour cleaning marathon. One area. The kitchen counter, the bathroom sink, the living room table, that chair that has somehow become a permanent storage facility for clothes. You know the one. Because when you live alone, clutter can grow quietly. Nobody is coming home and saying, "Why is this pile still here?" Nobody's asking why the dishes are still in the sink. Nobody's forcing you to deal with the stack of mail sitting on the counter. So the little things accumulate, and eventually, the house begins to feel heavier. Not necessarily because it is filthy, because everywhere you look, there is another unfinished task. A pile of mail says, "Deal with me." Dirty dishes say, "Deal with me." Laundry says, "Deal with me." Clutter says, "Deal with me." And your brain notices all of it. So thriving seniors do not necessarily clean more. They prevent small problems from becoming big ones. 10 minutes? Clear the table. Wash the dishes. Throw away the junk mail. Put the clothes away. Then stop. You do not need a perfect house. You need a home that feels peaceful enough to live in. There's a quiet confidence that comes from looking around your home and thinking, "I've got this." That feeling is worth protecting. And tomorrow, there's another routine that can completely change how you experience your mornings, especially when nobody else is expecting you to get out of bed. Routine number 6. They give themselves something to look forward to. This might be one of the most overlooked routines of all. When you were working, tomorrow automatically had something waiting for you. A meeting, a shift, an appointment, a deadline. Even if you did not enjoy every part of your old schedule, it gave the next day a shape. After retirement, that structure can disappear almost overnight. And when you live alone, the difference can feel even bigger. You wake up and think, "What am I supposed to do today?" There is nothing wrong with having an open schedule.
The problem is when every day becomes so open that nothing feels worth getting up for. That is why thriving seniors deliberately put something on tomorrow's calendar. It doesn't have to be expensive, it doesn't have to be exciting, and it certainly does not need to be a major event. Maybe it's breakfast at your favorite place. Maybe it's a morning walk. Maybe there's a book waiting for you at the library. Maybe you're going to work in the garden. Maybe a friend is stopping by. Maybe you want to try a new recipe. Maybe there's a favorite television program in the evening. The activity itself is not the important part. The anticipation is. There is something powerful about going to sleep knowing that tomorrow already has one small moment you're looking forward to. Because sometimes the best part of an experience begins before the experience actually happens. Think about the feeling you had as a child when you knew something exciting was happening the next day. Maybe it was a family trip, maybe it was a birthday, maybe it was seeing a friend. You went to sleep differently because your mind already had something waiting for it. You can create a smaller version of that feeling at any age. You don't need a vacation booked 6 months in advance. You just need one reason to say, tomorrow I'm going to do that.
Routine number 7. They move their body every day. This does not mean becoming a fitness fanatic. It does not mean joining an expensive gym. And it certainly does not mean trying to exercise like you are 25 again. The goal is simply to avoid letting an entire day pass without moving. Take a walk, stretch, work in the garden, clean the house, walk around the store instead of rushing through it. Put on some music and move around the living room. The activity can be simple. What matters is that your body does not spend the entire day in the same chair. And there's a sneaky danger that comes with living alone. Nobody notices when you have been sitting for 4 hours. Nobody says, "You've been in that chair long enough." The television does not care. Your phone does not care. The couch certainly does not care. So you have to notice. A thriving senior might have a simple rule. Every hour or two, get up, walk around, get some water, look outside, do something that changes your position. You're not trying to win a competition. You're simply reminding your body that it is still supposed to participate in your life. And there is something else that happens when you move. You often feel more capable. You feel like you can still do things. You can still walk to the store. You can still carry the groceries. You can still work in the yard. You can still get up and move around your home without thinking about every step. That sense of capability matters enormously when you live alone, because independence is not just about having your own house, it's about being able to participate in your own life.
Routine number 8. They prepare for tomorrow before going to bed. This is one of the simplest routines you can build. Before you turn off the lights, take 5 minutes. Ask yourself 3 questions. What time am I getting up? What is one thing I need to do tomorrow? And what is one thing I want to enjoy tomorrow? That's it. You do not need a complicated planner. You do not need a color-coded calendar. You simply need to give tomorrow a beginning. Maybe you're going to the grocery store. Maybe you're going to call your sister. Maybe you're going to take a walk. Maybe you're going to clean the kitchen. Maybe you're going to sit outside with your morning coffee. When you decide this the night before, you wake up with direction instead of uncertainty. And that can change the feeling of an entire morning. Because one of the hardest parts of living alone is that there is nobody else setting the pace. You are responsible for creating the rhythm. That may sound like a burden, but it is actually one of the greatest freedoms you have. You get to decide what your mornings look like. You get to decide what matters. You get to decide who you spend time with. You get to decide when the television goes off. You get to decide when it is time to go outside. And you get to decide what kind of life you want your ordinary days to become. None of these routines looks impressive from the outside. That's exactly why they work. A meaningful life after 60 is rarely built from one huge decision. It's built quietly, through hundreds of ordinary decisions that nobody else sees. If this video gave you one routine you want to try, share it in the comments. And if you already have a daily routine that makes living alone better, share that too. It might be exactly the idea another senior needs to hear.